Hello and welcome to Game and Read. I'm Erin.
My name is Peter.
And we are here with another installment of Weekly Friday Reads. Every week we come to you and give you an update on what we've been reading and playing in last weekend and then going into this current weekend. We also are going to always give you a recommendation, usually a book and a game, sometimes other things, whenever we feel like it.
Sometimes a Netflix series.
Exactly.
Kicking off our check-in from last week is where we're starting. Last week we were both playing Splatoon 2 specifically for the Chicken vs. Egg Splatfest. Now, I don't need to give a big report on this. We talked about Splatfest last week. They're great. They're a ton of fun. It's a wonderful little in-game event, and I'm really glad that Nintendo's still been doing them. Unfortunately, us both being Team Egg, our teams were not successful. We were the most popular by
a lot.
By a decent margin. It was like 58 to 42. That's a big margin. However, in both types of gameplay, the chicken had the higher percentage and therefore walked away with the entire championship. I know you and I both played several hours of it. We both got to the highest level of, egg fan, the egg king and the egg queen. And it was just, it's a good time. I always love revisiting Splatoon. It's a game that I'd never want to be fully out of my life because it's so easy to just pick up and play without needing to dedicate dozens of hours to stay up to date, like, say, some, MMOs and other things people play actively. It's a nice... You can take a break for a couple months and always come back.
And, once you have yes, there are new weapons that get released, but once you have your, preferred weapon or preferred gear, really it is, you can slip right back into it after months of not playing. Playing it for hours is always so much fun. Do I think I've been Splatooned out for a little bit? Maybe.
Oh, no.
For a little bit. But I'm sure I will return. Last week, I was starting The Unraveling of Cassidy Holmes by Alyssa R. Sloan. It was a Book of the Month pick. It is a new release. I think it comes out the first week of September. And I enjoyed it. It deals with some pretty heavy topics, depression, sexual assault, suicide, some verbal abuse, stalking. So there's really heavy topics, but I think that it was done in a way that felt realistic, and I really liked the story. It's about these pop stars, this pop group, and it focuses on one who was the fourth member, and she commits suicide at the very beginning of the book, and you see in the aftermath and then in flashbacks the way that different people in her life are dealing with it. And I felt like the characters really had depth and fullness, and it both was really meaty and sort of intense, but also there were parts that were delightfully ridiculous. So it was definitely both fun and thought-provoking and sad story. It's all that rolled into 400 and something pages. So I would recommend it just with the content warning about the depression and suicide and assault.
My Friday plays for this week is a little bit of a throwback, but it's ties to a coming release for next week and what I can almost guarantee will be my Friday play next week, and that I will be revisiting Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4 on the PlayStation 2. I say revisiting, this is actually going to be the first time I've actually played all the way through this game, never having really done this particular iteration. If you are somehow unfamiliar, the Tony Hawk Pro Skater games are a series of skateboarding games started in, I believe, 1999 with the original Tony Hawk Pro Skater on Nintendo 64, Dreamcast, PlayStation 1, all those good consoles back then. And it really became a annualized series by Neversoft and Activision. And up until 2005-ish, they were really pretty good. A few hits and misses here and there with some of the humor they would like to insert from time to time could be, I'm just going to say, kind of racist or stupid, but that was also, I guess, the era we were in. But the skating, very nice, a lot of fun. I love a good arcade skater. And I will be playing this because the Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 remake comes out next week. And I am so incredibly ready for it. And I just need to play something to like fill that space in my head. Otherwise, I'm going to go crazy.
Peter has already played the demo for hours.
Yeah, and the demo's just one level with no achievements. I just keep skating 2-minute sessions over and over again.
So to say he's excited,
it looks so pretty,
is an understatement.
I'm really excited for this game to come out. I've got it all pre-ordered and preloaded on my PlayStation, and I just think, just based on that demo, I think it's going to hit a really nice spot of really getting the physics and the gameplay right that I know a lot of the recent Tony Hawk games have totally failed on. And I'm really excited to see a good arcade skater game in high def on current consoles. And I'm really excited for that. And really, I want to get in a little bit on why these games are so personal to me. It's just something I really enjoyed as a kid. I remember when I first got introduced to them, I was at my cousin's house, my eldest cousin, who was, I guess, about 17 at the time, and I was about 7 or so around then. Yeah, I think we're about 10 years apart. And he had a Dreamcast, and he was playing Tony Hawk Pro Skater, and I just kind of like poke my head in his room, and I just see it on his TV, and I'm just like, what is this game? And it just was such a neat experience to hear like the cool late 90s music when you're a 7-year-old seeing fun skateboard tricks. And I remember that, as soon as I could, I had gotten a copy of it for my Nintendo 64 and was a fan of the series for, ever since then. So it's a game that, while I can't say has a lot of deep meaning in its actual gameplay, is very near and dear to my heart, and I will always love them.
My Friday reads this week is Fleishman is in Trouble by Taffy Brodesser-Akner. This is a book that has been sitting on my shelf, for
I feel like I
while.
recognize it. It's one of those books that I'm used to seeing it.
It's been on my shelf for a long time, and I am awaiting a book box from my mother, and I'm so excited because there's a million books in there.
Oh God,
it's
why,
coming.
Kirsten? Why?
But this is one that I'm like, you know what? I've seen it forever. This came in like 5 book boxes ago. So I'm going to give it a shot. It is about Toby Fleishman, who is a newly divorced father of 2. And he is just adjusting to life as a bachelor on the dating app, seeing what all is out there, when his ex-wife texts him at like 5 a.m. and it's like, by the way, I dropped the kids off and I'm headed out. And then his wife disappears. And that's pretty much all I know about it. I have started it. It is interesting so far. I'm only about 40 pages in. And so I will give you an update next week. It is not something I normally read. So we'll see how it goes.
On a base level of just how you describe it, it almost sounds like oh, woe is me, I have to be a dad to my children. I was just getting, ready to hook up with people.
And that's what I'm concerned it's going to be. It is, I have only gotten to the point where like, I just learned about how the narrator is not Toby Fleishman, but it's also not a third person. It's someone in his life. And I just learned who that was.
It's not just like a storyteller?
No,
okay.
So it's an interesting start. So I'll let you know how it was when we talk next week.
Recommendations. Every week we recommend a couple of things based on a lot of different things. This week, the game recommendation comes from an anniversary, and I'm trying to figure out the best way to introduce it. But first, I'm going to introduce somebody I brought on to talk about this with. Nick, say hello.
Hello.
Nick, like many of our other guests, is just somebody we really like from college who also happens to enjoy video games a lot. And I know he is one of the few people I know who's a big fan of one particular series, which was also the birthplace of this noise.
Waluigi!
I wonder what it could be.
Well, if you didn't know where Waluigi came from, it was Mario Tennis for the Nintendo 64. It was now released 20 years ago. Nick, I am curious to hear your really the whole franchise, because while this game may not be super important individually, it certainly is one of the longer running Nintendo sports series. I guess it's had like 5 different entries or 6.
Mm-hmm. Well, if this is like a recommendation segment, I like the N64 version as a place to jump off because it is a good game. It's a stranger one. The GameCube one's a lot more just like friendly to play. It feels like errors are a lot more unforced in the N64 one. It's easier to hit balls out and in the net, which I think is a little less fun. I don't know. When it doesn't feel like it's your fault and you're not quite sure what you did wrong, it can be a little more frustrating. But the cool part of the N64 one was if you had the transfer pack from Pokemon Stadium, you smack that bad boy in the back of your controller, and you plug Mario Tennis in for the Game Boy Color, because that's where the action is at.
And what happens when you do that?
Well, 2 things happen. So the games, in a way, they kiss. And they leave a little bit of each other on each other, but not a lot. Like, it's just a kiss. It's not any. They don't exchange anything. Just a little, and then just a little bit's left on each. With the N64 one, you actually transfer over characters for mini games and for multiplayer. The Game Boy Color game does not really function as a big multiplayer game like the N64 one did, obviously, because you're more than likely playing it by yourself. If you had a friend with Mario Tennis and the the cord, you could obviously play together. But the cool part about the Game Boy Color one was it was an RPG. You play as a kid going to tennis school, and you start in like the JV class, and you rank up by challenging characters who are better than you, and by doing mini games and by doing other things in the room and like the areas that you can play tennis. You can earn experience points that you then use to like upgrade your footwork and your spin and your power, and I think just like your control overall. So in the way that when you pick a character in Mario Tennis and they're all categorized by an attribute like defense, speed, power, things like that, instead you can make your own, which is super neat. And you get to choose between being a lady or a dude, and then you get to choose your partner as well, and they can be a lady or a dude. And they're your, I think if you're the same sex, you're roommates. If you're not, you're just on the same floor. You can't be roommates. That would be bad.
If you're a lady that picks a dude or a dude that picks a lady, you live in Couch Hall on the 2nd floor. And
welcome to the Hendrix podcast, Hendrix College.
So wait, so I will be honest. I did not know Mario Tennis existed until I started dating Peter. So Nick, I know you played tennis. Do you like this game because you played tennis in real life?
Or did this inspire the tennis playing?
I think I played it after I was playing tennis, but my connection with a sports game is usually like how much arcadey fun it is. And my favorite Mario Tennis game, probably the one I've played the most, is on the GameCube. I just really like that one. Although the amount of times I've like started and restarted the little RPG you do in that game might outnumber it. So there's no real way to tell. But as far as console ones go, the N64 one is the most fun, I guess.
Peter, what is your... I mean, I know it's an anniversary, 20 years of Mario Tennis, but what is your attachment to this game?
I would say nowadays, the thing I like most about it is that it is the birthplace of Waluigi, a niche character who Nintendo, I don't think, actually wants to exist. They've never really fully accepted him, and he pretty much only appears in the various Mario sports games to fill out the roster. But he is a wonderful meme, and just, a character brimming with so much tenacity and just pure animal magnetism.
He's just got a lot of stank on him. He's just like Nintendo like doesn't have a lot of characters they can like put stank on, and so they just like made one to just like use up all their resources.
Right.
Like we only have one that goes. Nyeh. So.
Right, and the interesting thing is that I think he's one of the few like core Mario gang characters, in that he's closely associated with them, who was not developed internally by Nintendo, because this Mario Tennis game was made by Camelot, a kind of a second party developer at that time, and they made a lot of different games for Nintendo, but it's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, I don't think Nintendo has a strong affinity for them because he wasn't made by any big wig from Nintendo. He's not a Miyamoto character or anything like that, so they're kind of like, Waluigi's is never going to get a Waluigi world. He's never going to get his own standalone game. He'll be a trophy in Smash Brothers and will always go to the Olympics.
Because he's so good at tennis.
Right, but outside of that, I did play a decent amount of Mario Tennis back as a kid at my, in-home daycare person's house, because she had a son around my age who had an N64. He was one of the people who really got me into specifically Nintendo games, because they had a wonderful collection of games to play. And so I definitely had several summer days playing a lot of Mario Tennis, along with games like Mario Golf, which was also developed by Camelot, and all those fun sportsy games that are, kind of feel like Mario Kart, but with a sport around it instead of just racing.
And all of the music in golf, all of the Camelot Mario sports games, regardless of the quality of the games themselves, all the music slaps across the board. It's so good, and it doesn't sound like anything else. And I don't know, the golf especially, like I think they use a lot of like whistles and woodwinds in the instrumentation. I could be wrong, but that's just what's in my head.
I know I don't
know.
I'll be digging through some of that, because I will be placing it probably in the break right here.
Yeah, if you could pick a piece that supports what I just said, that'd be fantastic.
Peter's actually going to find a percussion piece that does not sound woodwindy.
Yeah, this is just really bassy. I think there's a guy beatboxing.
As we all know, Mario Golf uses the big band style. And that's
Yes, everyone knows that Mario Tennis mostly takes place in New Donk City, so it's very jazzy.
Oh, I do wish that, because they did the newest Mario Tennis on the Switch, and I played that. I got it, and it has a little story mode, but it's nowhere near as good as the old RPG versions. It's like 5 hours long, but all of the mechanics are used in it super well, but it doesn't feel like I'm really good at tennis. It feels like I'm really good at like doing these weird dodges and flips. And
yeah,
also,
a lot of like special charges.
Yeah, and I feel like the further the series has gone along, they're like, we have to find new ways to keep people engaged with tennis. And it's like, I'm fine.
It is a sport that humans have been playing for like 500 years now. It's a fairly old sport.
And really the only idea Nintendo has got is just to put different and more kinds of shiny spots on the ground. And then activate them in different ways. Other than that, they haven't. I guess in the Wii U one, you got the big mushroom, and then you just win the point. Like it was over.
If you get this item, you don't have to play tennis anymore.
Right? I did like playing online. I think that's a fun feature. And there is a way on the online mode to take out all of like the dodging and the fancy moves and just play straight up tennis. However, the people who play that mode are really good.
There's a reason that they play online with that mode.
Like I go online and play against like anyone with any rules, and I do pretty okay. And then I'm like, you know what? I hate dodging. I hate all these super moves. People keep acing me, and it's not my fault. I'm gonna go play regular tennis, and I play against people. It's like those people when you play Splatoon, and like I didn't even see that guy on the map. How did he get 1,000 points? I don't understand.
Yeah, no, it's always a tricky thing when you get into the niche world of certain online games. As far as if you were going to try and play the original Mario Tennis and don't own an N64 or the cartridge anymore, it is, if you somehow own a Wii U, which I think more people own N64s than Wii U's, you could get it off the Virtual Console on that. That was the most recent time it was re-released. Additionally, I know the Game Boy one you mentioned was released on the 3DS on the Virtual Console, so both are still available on previous gen systems if you really, really want to get your hands on the original Mario Tennis games, I would say I would love to see a Mario Sports collection over some of the generations here. If they just if they gave me a game that's or just gave me access to Mario Tennis, Mario Golf from the N64. I don't think there were any other Mario Sports on that one. I know they did a bunch in the GameCube because they ended up starting to do soccer and baseball and all that.
Mario Hoops 3-on-3.
I know, yeah, I never played the basketball one. But these are they're really fun, fairly well thought out sports games for what they are. And instead of, giving us that, they just kind of keep giving us the Olympics games, which are also fairly fun. But it'd be nice to see some better curation of the older titles that people get attached to with the different physics and things that they put in them.
Yeah, if you want an old pro's advice, I wouldn't. If you have a Wii U, I wouldn't rush out to get Mario Tennis on the N64. It's not aged as well as you hoped. I would go to your 3DS, which I hope is still charging. I played Chrono Trigger on my 3DS earlier this week.
It's been charging for 5 years.
I would recommend playing that. I think it's half the price, and I honestly think it's twice as fun as the N64 one. So if you're gonna play one, I would say go grab that one. It's cheap.
All right. Nick, where can people find you on the internet if they want to see your thoughts and opinions on Mario Tennis and other such tennis games?
I'm on Twitter. Most of my Twitter recently, I got a new puppy. So we've been hanging out with our new puppy, and you get videos of my big puppy playing with my little puppy. And so those are always fun. But occasionally I do tweet about other stuff. I think my handle is at I am the Nick Daily.
Is it that? I thought you were Continual Size.
No,
that's
his name.
That's my name.
Oh.
It has been I am the Nick Daily since I could.
Well, that's what.
remember.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I'm
Which
gonna crop that part out because I sound like an idiot.
Continual
now I
Size I
see.
made years ago as my name, and it's just only become more fitting. I can't get rid of it.
I know it is really good. I just need to remember. Oh yeah, Nick Daly. He's just always kind of.
It's funny because if I ever need to find your account, you're the easiest person to look up because your name is just all there.
The other thing I'm going to recommend this week, and I'm going to call it a soft recommend, is the Netflix docuseries High Score that came out a week and a half ago. I think it was exactly 1 week ago. It is a video game history show, I think is the best way to call it. It goes kind of from the era of the Atari, primarily in the 70s, up through the kind of dawn of online gaming on the PC in the mid-90s with Doom. And it involves a lot of fun, pixelated animations, a lot of interviews with different people in different realms of video games, both fans who were almost like semi-professional competitors, a lot of actual designers, some video game musicians, artists, all kinds of stuff. They kind of throw a wide net. And that's one of the things I want to comment on is just that while I think it's a fun series and certainly one that will give you some interesting information, even if you're... I learned some new stuff, I'm going to say. A lot of it was stuff I'd heard before and stories I'd heard before, but there was some new stuff, and I really appreciated learning that and seeing the different people they brought in on the interviews. However, it makes it a little too poppy at certain times where it's they like to kind of draw these neat lines of this led to this, and it's not really in any way, shape, or form, but it led to some very good interviews. And I'd say if you have any interest in games and wanted to see some cool old footage and see some people who designed some games and maybe who you didn't know, it's a series worth checking out.
My recommendation this week is The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. This is an absolutely enchanting book. It is about a man named Linus. He is a caseworker for orphanages that are magical children orphanages. Basically, kids who can do magic are
just a bunch of Harry Potters in there.
Taken away from their families. not in great ethical moral ways.
You got the Narnia kids too, who weren't orphans. They were just hiding from the Blitz.
That's sort of right. So it basically it's this society that looks very similar to our real world, except that there are some people who are magic, who can do magical things, who are magical beings, and they are pretty much kept in an orphanage or in like a re-education school. It's not great, but Linus is a caseworker for these orphanages. And one day, and he's very by the book. And one day he gets an assignment that is super classified, and he enters the world of Arthur Parnassus and the group of children at his home. And all of the children are more startling than Linus could ever imagine in anything he's ever seen before. It is a book that is about magic. It's about fear. It's about community and love. Amazing writing. The feelings it evokes is just phenomenal. I cried twice, and I don't normally cry at books, but I cried.
It's true, you don't normally cry at books. This was kind of an odd one.
Yeah, I don't know if it was just when I was reading it or what, but it just hit me, and it was just so good. And TJ Klune is a queer man. He identifies as queer, and he weaves queerness into this book in a really beautiful way. It's not something that is, bashed over your head, but it's also not something that is just mentioned once and then you move on. It's really part of Linus as a
kind
person.
of a naturalistic take on queer characters.
Exactly, as if because they are just regular people. And so it was really beautiful and refreshing to have that element in, because it really gives you a rounder, more informed understanding of Linus as a character. So I would absolutely recommend it. That's The House on the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune.
That's all we have for you this week. You can look forward to our next Friday Reads episode next Friday. If you want to see any of our other posts, mostly our podcasts, you can check us out on gameandread.wordpress.com, and you can find this podcast pretty much anywhere you find podcasts. We have it on Stitcher, iTunes, or SoundCloud is where we host everything, as well as Spotify, and I've been putting all Friday Reads onto our YouTube page.
You can follow us on social media. I am on Twitter at BookishTextPat. I also have a Bookstagram with my mom at A Tale of Two Shelves.
You can find me on Twitter. I just updated my handle to reflect what I'm actually working on, where it used to be Nerd in the World, a blog I did in college, and now it is Game and Read. So you can find Peter at Game and Read.
Our intro music was written and performed by Avery Murchison, and there is a link to his Bandcamp in the description.
Thanks for listening.
And we'll see you next time.
Game and Read.
Hey, Erin, welcome to the back part of the episode where I'm going to hide a couple random noises. Are you ready for this?
No, I'm absolutely not ready.
All right. So what are some things you would never expect Waluigi to have said in his first appearance in a tennis game?
I feel like you're going to tell me.
All right. Well, here's one you might expect because it seems like something you'd say.
Hey, I'm a number one.
So you'd expect him to say something like that when he's a winner.
Yeah.
But what do you think Waluigi likes to celebrate with when he's really, really happy?
Look, I'm a dance. I'm a sing. I'm so happy.
Wait. Did he say, I'm a
Look, I'm a dance.
I'm a dance. He's going to dance. He's so happy. He's going to dance and he's sing. He's so happy.
Waluigi is truly the weirdest character anyone could ever think of.
What the?
Exactly, Waluigi. Those are my feelings.
Oh, now he's mad
I
at
hate
you.
this. I hate that you have access to this in a way that can be used all the time.
Look, I'm a dance.